Captain Emma Walsh stared at the projection floating above her desk, running her fingers through her graying hair for the 100th time that hour. The salvage contract's numbers were impossible. Triple the standard rate for what looked like a routine strip job. Her other hand tapped an old-fashioned brass compass, a nervous habit she'd developed over 15 years of deep space salvage work. "Mike, run those coordinates again," she called over the ship's intercom. "Something about this doesn't add up." Engineer Mike Rodriguez's voice crackled back, thick with the fatigue of their 3-week salvage run. "Already did, Cap. 3 times. It's in the middle of nowhere, about 6 light-years off the Perseus trading route. No registered stations, no colonies, nothing but vacuum and background radiation. The Lucky Break's bridge lights dimmed to evening cycle, casting orange shadows across the worn control panels. Their ship wasn't pretty, but she was paid for, or would be, after 2 more successful runs. The thought made Emma's stomach twist as she studied the contract again. "Kate, what's your security assessment?" she asked, knowing their security officer would be monitoring the conversation. Kate Mitchell's response was immediate and characteristically blunt. "It's either a trap or someone's desperate. No other salvage crews have touched it. I checked the boards. Contract's been up for 6 hours, and we're the only ones even pinging it for details." Emma nodded to herself. 6 hours without a bite in the salvage community was practically unheard of, especially for a high-paying job. She pulled up the initial scan data again. A cargo hauler signature, approximately merchant-class size, showing minimal power readings. Standard stuff, except for that location. The intercom crackled again. "Hey, Cap." Tyler Anderson's voice carried that tone he got when he was about to say something nobody wanted to hear. "We've got about 40 minutes before our fuel reserves hit the point of no return. If we're heading home, we need to make the call now." Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision. The Lucky Break's last 3 runs had been busts, stripped clean by other crews who'd gotten there first. Their fuel costs were mounting, and the loan payments for their new cutting equipment would come due whether they found salvage or not. "Plot me a course to both locations," she ordered. "Home station and these coordinates. I want exact fuel calculations." A moment later, 2 routes appeared on her display. The mysterious salvage location would stretch their reserves to the limit, but Tyler's calculations showed they could make it. Barely. "Crew meeting. Now." Emma pushed back from her desk. "Mess hall in 5." 4 minutes later, she stood before her assembled crew. Mike Rodriguez's dark coveralls were stained with engine grease, his hands permanently tinted with mechanical dye. Kate Mitchell stood at parade rest, a habit from her military days that she'd never shaken. Tyler Anderson slouched against the wall, his navigator's eyes constantly moving, calculating. And Jenny Parker, their medical officer and designated EVA specialist, sat cross-legged on a mess hall table, already suited up for what she clearly expected would be a yes decision. "You've all seen the contract," Emma began. "I want opinions. Jenny, you start." The young doctor grinned. "We're broke, Cap. We need this score. Simple math." "Simple math got a lot of salvage crews killed," Kate countered. "This has all the markers of a setup. Remote location, too good to be true payment, and a convenient time pressure to make us sloppy." Mike wiped his hands on a rag that might have been clean once, decades ago. "Ship's ready either way, but I'd vote for checking it out. Worst case, we burn some fuel. Best case," he shrugged, "we might actually get ahead of our debt for once." Tyler pushed off from the wall. "We can make it there with a 12% reserve. That's assuming no more than 2 gravity assists and 1 emergency burn. Tight, but doable." Emma let their words settle in the recycled air. The logical choice was to head home, regroup, take on a safer contract. But 15 years of salvage work had taught her something about instincts. This contract didn't feel like a trap. It felt like destiny wrapped in paperwork. "Plot the course," she said finally. "But we do this by the book." No corners cut, no risks taken until we know exactly what we're dealing with. Kate, I want weapons hot the moment we drop out of FTL. Mike, get our cutting gear prepped, but priority is on quick disconnect if things go south. Jenny, full EVA checks on all suits. Tyler, she managed to smile. Try to get us there in one piece. The crew scattered to their stations, leaving Emma alone in the mess hall. She pulled out her compass again, watching the needle spin before settling on its true north. 6 hours without a salvage crew claiming the job. Either they were about to make the mistake of their lives, or they were about to make history. She really hoped it was the latter. FTL drop in 3, 2, 1. Tyler's countdown ended in a sharp intake of breath. The lucky break shuddered as reality reasserted itself, stars snapping back into position. Emma's hands tightened on her command chair's armrests. Where the scan data had promised a simple cargo hauler, something else entirely dominated their viewport. Sweet mother off. Mike's voice cracked over the comm. Cap, are you seeing this? Emma was seeing it, but her brain refused to process the scale. The vessel before them stretched beyond the viewport's limits, its hull a crystalline black expanse that seemed to drink in starlight. Conservative estimates put it at least 20 times the size of a Galactic Commons battleship. Multiple weapons signatures detected, Kate reported, her military training keeping her voice steady. Some I recognize, some I don't. Oldest scoring patterns suggest weapons fire from centuries ago. Computer can't even date some of these marks. Jenny's medical sensors chirped in the background. Everyone's heart rates are elevated. Might want to remember to breathe, folks. Emma forced herself to inhale slowly. Tyler, maintain distance. Kate, defensive systems at full. Mike, what are we looking at? It's not showing up in any database I can access. Mike replied, the sound of rapid typing accompanying his words. Hull configuration doesn't match any known species architecture. But Cap, these readings, the power signatures are active. That got everyone's attention. Salvage crews lived and died by one rule: dead ships only. Active systems meant complications, and complications meant death in deep space. Define active, Emma demanded. Low-level energy readings throughout the structure. Like it's sleeping. Mike paused. Wait, power spike. Brilliant blue light suddenly bathed the Lucky Breaks bridge. Emma's displays flickered and died, then restarted one by one. We're being scanned, Kate announced, fingers dancing across her security console. Multiple frequencies, including some Meshulan. She stopped abruptly. The scans, they're familiar somehow, like old Earth tech, but impossibly advanced. The blue light intensified, sweeping across their ship in precise patterns. Emma's brass compass began spinning wildly in her pocket. Then, as suddenly as it began, the scanning stopped. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the massive ship's surface shifted. Sections of the crystalline black hull flowed like liquid metal, reconfiguring themselves until they formed what was unmistakably a hangar entrance. The scale of it made Emma's head spin. They could have flown the Lucky Break-In with room to spare for 10 more ships her size. That's an invitation if I ever saw one, Jenny whispered. Mike's voice was uncharacteristically serious. Cap, I know how this sounds, but I think it chose us. These systems, they're not just active, they're selective. That scan, it was looking for something specific, and it found it in us, Kate finished, her skepticism warring with wonder. But why? Emma stared at the hangar entrance, her compass now still but pointing directly at the colossal ship. Years of salvage work had taught her to trust her instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming that this moment was important, not just for her crew, but for something much bigger. Tyler, take us in, she ordered. Nice and slow. Kate, keep weapons hot, but do not engage unless I give the word. Mike, start running deep scans the moment we're inside. Jenny, prep the EVA suits. We're not passing this up. Copy that. Her crew responded in unison. The lucky break crept forward, dwarfed by the massive hangar entrance. Emergency lights automatically activated along their path, as if the ancient vessel was laying out a welcome mat. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, evaluated, measured against some unknown standard. As they passed the hangar threshold, Mike's console erupted with data. Internal atmosphere reading is breathable. Gravity systems active and matching standard Earth normal. It's adapting to us. Or returning to old settings, Emma murmured, watching as more systems came online ahead of them, lighting their way deeper into the mysterious ship. They were about to discover just how routine this salvage job wasn't. The crystalline black corridors seemed to stretch forever, defying the physical dimensions they'd observed from outside. Emma led her EVA-suited crew forward, their helmet lights illuminating surfaces that absorbed and reflected light in impossible ways. "This doesn't make sense," Tyler muttered, checking his navigation tablet for the third time. "According to these readings, we're walking through solid hull material. It's like the interior spaces are folding." Mike ran his scanner along a seamless wall. "The material composition is off the charts. It's not just metal. It's something else, something that responds to our presence." As if to prove his point, the corridor ahead suddenly shifted, walls flowing like liquid mercury before solidifying into a new configuration. Where there had been a dead end moments before, an archway now led to a vast chamber. "Everyone stay sharp," Kate advised, her pulse rifle tracking the shifting architecture. "Just because it's letting us in doesn't mean we're safe." Jenny consulted her medical readouts. Air's still reading as perfectly breathable. Pressure and composition match Earth normal exactly. Too exactly, if you ask me. Emma reached up to her helmet, fingers hovering over the release catch. Her crew tensed. "Cap, you're not seriously," Kate began. The helmet came off with a soft hiss. Emma took a deep breath, tasting recycled air that was somehow fresher than what they had on the lucky break. "Sometimes you have to show trust to get it in return," Emma said, tucking her helmet under her arm. After a moment's hesitation, the others followed suit. The chamber they entered defied description. Holographic displays flickered to life around them, showing star charts, ship schematics, and streams of data in an unfamiliar script that nonetheless felt almost readable. "Look at this," Mike called out, approaching what appeared to be a central control station. "These interfaces, they're not designed for alien appendages. They're meant for human hands." As if responding to his words, the control station hummed to life. A holographic interface materialized, displaying symbols that shifted between the unknown script and recognizable English. "Genetic and neural pattern analysis complete," a voice announced, neither male nor female, emanating from everywhere and nowhere. "Human markers confirmed. Generation lost protocols initiating." Mike reached out tentatively toward the interface. The moment his fingers touched the holographic surface, the entire chamber transformed. The walls became transparent, revealing the true scale of the vessel they were inside. Layers upon layers of decks, weapon systems, and technology beyond their comprehension stretched in every direction. "Neural synchronization beginning," the voice announced. "Caution advised for first-time interface." Mike's eyes went wide. "Oh my God," he whispered. "I can feel it. The ship, it's in my head. No, that's not right. It's extending my mind. I can see everything." "Multiple contacts detected," Kate suddenly announced, checking her tactical display. 3 distinct fleet signatures just entered long-range scanning distance. "They're on an intercept course." The ship's voice spoke again, this time with a note of urgency. "Hostile forces approaching. Executive decision required. Activate defense protocols." Emma stepped forward, placing her hand on Mike's shoulder. "What exactly are we dealing with here? What is this ship?" The chamber dimmed, and a new hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed the vessel they were standing in, but new, unmarred by battle damage. Text scrolled beside it. Designation: The Harbinger. Class: Guardian Class Defense Platform. Purpose: Protection of developing civilizations. Status: Standby mode. Awaiting authorized users. Current authorized users detected: 5. Original builders. Human Precursor Society. Time since last activation: 897 standard years. Human Precursor Society. Jenny breathed. That's impossible. Humanity only achieved spaceflight in the 20th century. Unless, Emma said slowly, pieces falling into place, Earth wasn't our beginning. It was where we were hidden. Warning klaxons suddenly blared throughout the chamber. The voice returned, more urgent than before. Hostile vessels charging weapons. Defense protocols awaiting authorization. Please respond. The crew looked at each other, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. They had come looking for salvage. Instead, they'd found humanity's forgotten legacy. And now they had to decide what to do with it. 3 minutes until weapons range, Kate reported, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. I'm counting 16 battleships, 42 destroyers, and hell, they brought everything they had. The holographic display showed 3 distinct fleet formations approaching their position. The Arcturian Dominion's wedge-shaped warships led the charge, their crimson hulls catching distant starlight. Behind them, the sleek vessels of the Vega Consortium spread out in a classic hunting pattern. The Orion Defense Force brought up the rear, their heavily armored dreadnoughts moving with ponderous certainty. They're broadcasting, Tyler announced from his station. All 3 fleets. Emma straightened her shoulders. Put them through. 3 holograms materialized in the command chamber. Admiral Blackwood of the Orion Defense Force spoke first, his weathered face creased with concern. Captain Walsh, you're in possession of a Class 0 restricted weapon. Power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. The vessel belongs to the Arcturian Dominion by right of ancient conquest. The Arcturian High Commander interrupted, mandibles clicking. Our archives clearly show. Your archives show nothing. The Vega Consortium representative cut in, their crystalline form shimmering with agitation. This predates all current civilizations. For the safety of the galaxy, it must be placed in neutral hands. Mike's voice shook as he monitored the ship's systems. Cap, the Harbinger's defense grid is spinning up automatically. These readings, this isn't just a warship. It's something else entirely. Emma raised her hand for silence. This vessel, she said carefully, addressing all 3 commanders, has recognized human genetic markers. It's responded to human neural patterns. Whatever your archives say, the Harbinger seems to know exactly who it belongs to. Impossible, the Arcturian commander spat. Humanity is barely out of its cosmic cradle. You're scavengers, nothing more. The ship's eye spoke then, its voice echoing through the chamber. Warning. Hostile targeting systems locked. Recommended response. Full defensive activation. Jenny moved to Emma's side. Cap, whatever we're doing, we need to decide fast. Those fleets aren't slowing down. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command settle onto her shoulders. They were salvage crew, not soldiers, not leaders, not guardians of some ancient legacy, but standing in this impossible ship, feeling its power humming through the deck beneath her feet, she knew they'd passed the point of no return. Mike, she said quietly, how deeply can you interface with the ship's systems? The engineer's eyes were unfocused, seeing data streams only he could access. It's teaching me as we go. The neural link is getting stronger. I can feel the weapons grid, the defensive systems, even the, oh my God. What is it? The drive system. It doesn't just move through space. It moves space itself. The Orion Admiral's patience visibly broke. This is your final warning. Power down or 2 minutes to weapons range, Kate interrupted. They're charging main batteries. Emma looked at each member of her crew in turn. Tyler, whose navigation skills had brought them here. Kate, whose military experience might save their lives. Jenny, whose commitment to preservation extended beyond just human life. And Mike, now linked to humanity's greatest creation. "This isn't about Salvage anymore," Emma said. "This isn't even about us." The Harbinger wasn't lost. It was waiting. The question is, are we ready for what comes next? The ship's AI spoke again. Executive decision required. Priority override available to authorized users. Accept or deny command interface. Mike's hands hovered over the neural interface. Cap. Emma thought of her old brass compass, still pointing true despite the impossible technology surrounding them. Sometimes the best navigation meant following your gut. "Do it," she ordered. "Full interface. Let's show them what humanity's been hiding all these years." Mike placed his hands on the interface. Light coursed up his arms, and his eyes blazed with internal fire. The Harbinger's systems surged to full power, and the vast chamber filled with holographic displays of weapons that defied known physics. "1 minute to weapons range," Kate announced. Emma squared her shoulders and addressed the fleet commanders. "Gentlemen, lady, I suggest you reconsider your approach. We'd hate to damage your pretty fleets." The real question was, could a salvage crew really face down 3 battle fleets? They were about to find out. The first shots came from the Arcturian fleet, a barrage of plasma torpedoes that lit up space like artificial suns. Emma watched them approach, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Mike," she asked, keeping her voice steady. "Just wait," the engineer replied, his eyes closed in concentration. The neural interface pulsed with light that ran up his arms and across his chest. "The Harbinger is showing me something." The plasma torpedoes reached their target and passed straight through where the massive ship had been. Emma blinked. The Harbinger hadn't moved, yet somehow the weapons had missed. "Probability manipulation," Mike explained, wonder in his voice. "The ship doesn't dodge, it just makes itself be where the attacks aren't. Like quantum tunneling, but at a macro scale." The Vega Consortium fleet opened fire next, their graviton beams distorting space itself as they reached for the Harbinger. This time, Emma saw the attack simply bend around their hull, as if reality itself was respecting their personal space. "Holy shit," Kate breathed, watching her tactical display. Those were direct hits. Our shields didn't even register them as attacks. Jenny's medical sensors were going crazy. Mike's neural patterns are synchronizing with the ship's eye. It's like they're learning from each other. A Harbinger's voice filled the chamber, but it sounded different now, more alive, more present. Full systems integration achieved. Combat protocols unlocked. Requesting engagement parameters. Emma straightened in her command chair. Defensive pattern only. Disable, don't destroy. "They're not giving us much choice," Kate warned as the Orion Defense Force joined the barrage. "That's enough firepower to crack a small moon." The attacks converged on their position, a full spread of everything 3 advanced fleets could muster. Emma felt a moment of doubt. Then Mike smiled. "Watch this," he said softly. The Harbinger moved. Not like a ship, but like thought given form. Space rippled around them as ancient weapons powered up. Beams of pure white light lanced out, each one finding a target with surgical precision. Where they touched, ships simply stopped, their engines dead, their weapons powerless. "What are you doing to them?" Emma asked. "Selective entropy manipulation," Mike replied, his voice distant. "The Harbinger isn't just a warship. It's a proof of concept. Our ancestors figured out how to control the fundamental forces of reality itself." Tyler's navigation console lit up with warnings. Multiple ships trying to jump to FTL. "They're running." "Let them go," Emma ordered. Then, to the remaining fleet commanders still watching via hologram, "I think we've made our point. The Harbinger stays with us." Admiral Blackwood's weathered face had gone pale. "What are you?" Emma felt the weight of history in that question. "We're what humanity was always meant to become. We just forgot for a while." The Arcturian commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. a sign of extreme agitation. The archives spoke of this, the precursor war, the Great Sleep. We thought they were myths. Your archives are incomplete, the Harbinger's voice announced. The war you speak of was not a conquest, but a defense. My creators sought to protect developing civilizations from interference, including humanity itself. Understanding dawned on Emma. You scattered us, hid us on Earth, let us develop naturally. Yes, the experiment was successful. You have rediscovered your inheritance without the burden of your ancestors' power. A clean slate. Jenny stepped forward. But why now? Why us? Because you came seeking knowledge, not power. A salvage crew, hoping to rebuild from the pieces of the past. That hunger to understand, to restore, to build rather than destroy. It is what humanity was meant to preserve. The remaining ships of the 3 fleets were withdrawing now, their commanders no doubt already composing reports about the galaxy-shaking implications of this encounter. Emma watched them go, then turned to her crew. So, she said with a slight smile, still just a salvage job. Mike finally opened his eyes, the neural interface's glow fading to a gentle pulse. Cap, I think we just salvaged humanity's destiny. Warning klaxons cut through the moment. Kate's tactical display lit up with new contacts. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL, she announced. Different signatures this time. And they're broadcasting on. That can't be right. What is it? Emma asked. They're broadcasting on frequencies that match the Harbingers. Cap, I think we just got the attention of the rest of the defense network. The story of the salvage crew who found a derelict ship was ending. The story of humanity's awakening was just beginning. The new arrivals emerged from FTL, like fragments of night coming alive. 7 vessels, each as massive as the Harbinger, their crystalline black hulls reflecting starlight in impossible patterns. They moved with the same fluid grace as their sister ship, arranging themselves in a perfect defensive sphere around the Harbinger. Multiple incoming transmissions, Tyler announced, his voice trembling slightly. They're all broadcasting authentication codes. Mike's neural interface pulsed with renewed energy. They're not just broadcasting, Cap. They're reaching out. I can feel them, like echoes of the Harbinger, each with their own personality, their own purpose. The chamber's holographic displays expanded, showing detailed schematics of each new arrival. Names appeared beside them. The Warden, the Sentinel, the Guardian, the Protector, the Defender, the Keeper, and the Watchman. The defense network awakens, the Harbinger's voice announced. The circle is complete. Emma studied the massive ships surrounding them. What exactly is the defense network? The answer came not just in words, but in images that filled the chamber. The holographic display showed scenes from humanity's forgotten past, a civilization that had mastered the fundamental forces of the universe, that had seeded countless worlds with life, that had appointed itself guardian of developing species. Your ancestors understood power, the Harbinger explained. They understood its corruption. Rather than rule, they chose to protect. 8 ships, 8 guardians, each tasked with watching over different sectors of space, ensuring that no species interfered with the natural development of others, including our own development, Jenny realized. You protected Earth while we grew up. Correct. The experiment required isolation, pure development, untainted by knowledge of your true heritage. Kate's tactical display suddenly lit up. The 3 fleets are returning. They've called in reinforcements. I'm counting. Over 200 capital ships now. Emma felt a smile tugging at her lips. I don't think that's going to be enough anymore. The approaching armada filled the view screens, an impressive display of modern military might. But compared to the 8 ancient vessels now fully awakened, they seemed almost quaint. Admiral Blackwood's hologram reappeared, along with representatives from 24 other species. Their expressions ranged from awe to fear to calculated interest. This changes everything, the Admiral said quietly. The balance of power remains exactly as it should be, Emma interrupted. The defense network wasn't built for conquest. It was built to prevent it, to give every species a chance to develop without interference. She paused, looking at each alien representative in turn, including all of yours. The Harbinger's voice joined hers. Captain Walsh speaks truth. We are guardians, not conquerors. The experiment has yielded 8 distinct successes. 8 species that have developed the wisdom to use power responsibly. 8. The Arcturian commander's mandibles clicked in confusion. But humans are just one. Look at your fleet, Mike said suddenly, understanding dawning in his eyes as the neural interface showed him the truth. Really look at it. The Harbinger isn't just showing me your ships. It's showing me your genetic patterns. The holographic display shifted, highlighting specific ships in each fleet. 1 from the Arcturians, 2 from the Vega Consortium, 3 others from different species among the reinforcements. 7 other worlds, the Harbinger confirmed. 7 other branches of humanity, each seated on a different world, each guided down a different evolutionary path. Different enough to prevent recognition, similar enough to retain the essential qualities needed to operate the defense network. Emma looked at the alien representatives with new eyes, seeing past their physical differences to the common thread that connected them all. We're not just meeting our ancestors' legacy, she said. We're meeting our lost family. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Centuries of conflict, of prejudice, of assumed differences, all built on a foundation of hidden kinship. The defense network is not a weapon to be claimed, Emma continued. It's a responsibility to be shared. The question is, are we all ready to accept that responsibility? The answer would reshape the galaxy. But first, they had to survive the next few minutes, because not everyone in the gathered fleets would welcome this new revelation, and some of them were powering up their weapons. The first shot came from a Drachnid cruiser at the edge of the gathered fleet, a desperate action born of fear. The energy beam lanced toward the Harbinger, only to be intercepted by the Sentinel, which simply absorbed the attack into its crystalline hull. Hold your fire. Admiral Blackwood's voice boomed across all channels. That's an order. But panic had already taken hold. A dozen more ships opened fire, their weapons creating a dazzling display of destruction that would have annihilated any normal target. The defense network ships didn't even bother to dodge. Mike, Emma called out, can you share what you're seeing through the neural interface? Show them what we really are. The engineer nodded, his hands dancing across the holographic controls. Broadcasting now. Full spectrum, all channels. The chamber's displays expanded outward, becoming a vast sphere of information that enveloped the entire fleet. Within it, the true history of their species unfolded. They saw the original human civilization, masters of science so advanced it appeared magical. They watched as these ancestors faced a choice: use their power to dominate, or use it to protect. They witnessed the creation of the defense network, 8 mighty vessels designed not to conquer, but to preserve. The Great Diaspora, the Harbinger's voice narrated. Your ancestors chose to scatter their children across the stars, each group placed on a world that would guide their evolution in unique ways. The Arcturians, adapted for high-gravity worlds, developed their crystalline exoskeletons. The Vega, settling on gas giants, became beings of pure energy. Each branch of humanity transformed, guided by their environments, yet maintaining the neural patterns that would one day allow them to reclaim their inheritance. Through Mike's neural link, every ship in the fleet could feel the truth of these words. The connections that had always existed beneath their physical differences became impossible to ignore. Jenny's medical sensors were going crazy. The genetic markers, they're lighting up across every species. Different expressions of the same base code. We really are all one family. Kate lowered her weapon, shaking her head in wonder. All those wars, all that fighting. We've been battling our own cousins. The Vega Consortium representative's crystalline form pulsed with emotion. The ancient texts spoke of a time when we could change our form at will. We thought they were myths. Not myths, Emma said softly. Memories. The same way the Harbinger remembered us, even after all these years. Tyler's navigation console suddenly chimed. More ships dropping out of FTL. Hundreds of them. Every species in known space must have gotten word by now. The chamber's displays adjusted to show the growing fleet, but instead of battle formations, the ships were arranging themselves in concentric circles around the defense network vessels, a pattern as old as life itself. The gathering of tribes, the Harbinger announced. As it was before, so it shall be again. Through the neural interface, Mike gasped. Cap, the Harbinger is offering to share more than just history. The ship contains the complete scientific knowledge of our ancestors, not just weapons and defenses, but medicine, environmental restoration, faster than light travel that doesn't damage space-time. Knowledge that could lift all our civilizations. The Arcturian commander clicked thoughtfully, but only if we work together. Emma stood in the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of the moment. That's the real test, isn't it? Not whether we could find the defense network, but whether we're ready to use its power the way our ancestors did. Not to rule, but to protect. Not to divide, but to unite. The Harbinger's voice carried a note of pride. The experiment is complete. 8 branches of humanity, each evolved to face different challenges, each bringing unique perspectives to the whole. Apart, you survived. Together, you can thrive. Through the neural link, through the shared displays, through the very fabric of space itself, a connection formed between the gathered ships. Not a surrender of individuality, but a recognition of shared purpose. The salvage crew who had come looking for spare parts had found something far more valuable. They had found the way home. But their greatest challenge still lay ahead in the final hour. Multiple breaches detected. Kate's voice cut through the momentary peace. Something's coming through from somewhere else. The void between stars tore open, reality splitting along invisible seams. Through these wounds in space poured ships of burning brass and crimson lightning, vessels that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. The Ravagers, the Harbinger's voice held ancient recognition. They have awakened as well. Mike's neural interface flared with warning signals. They're not from our universe. The Harbinger's showing me. They're what our ancestors were protecting us from. Why they built the defense network in the first place. The new arrivals moved like predators, their impossible geometries hurting the eyes. Where they passed, space itself seemed to decay. This is what ended the first human civilization, Emma realized. Not a war or a disaster, but an invasion from outside reality itself. Through the neural interface, the Harbinger shared the final piece of the story. The original humans hadn't just seeded their children across the galaxy. They'd sacrificed themselves to hold back an invasion that would have consumed all of reality. The defense network was more than a peacekeeping force. It was a last line of defense against horrors from beyond the universe. All ships, Emma broadcast across all frequencies, form up around the defense network. Today we prove if we're worthy of our ancestors' legacy. The response was immediate. Ships from every evolved human species moved into formation, ancient rivalries forgotten in the face of a true enemy. The defense network vessels took point positions, their crystalline black hulls humming with power. Jenny, get me readings on those breach points, Emma ordered. Tyler, coordinate fleet movements with the other captains. Kate, weapons free. But wait for my signal. The Ravager ship struck first, reality-twisting beams cutting through space. But this time, the gathered fleet was ready. The Harbinger and its sister ships moved in perfect synchronization, their advanced shields creating a barrier not just against energy and matter, but against the laws of physics themselves. Now, Emma commanded. 8 defense network vessels fired as one, their weapons guided by the combined neural patterns of every evolved human species. Where their beams struck, the Ravager ships didn't just die. They were erased, their impossible existence unwritten from reality. The battle raged across dimensions, physics battling anti-physics, order against chaos. Through it all, the fleet moved as one organism, coordinated by the defense network's ancient wisdom and humanity's diverse perspectives. Mike's voice was strained but triumphant. The Harbinger's showing me how to seal the breaches, but we'll need everyone's help. Every ship, every mind, working together. Emma looked at the representatives of humanity's scattered children, still present via hologram. What do you say, cousins, ready to save reality as a family? The response was unanimous. Through the neural network, thousands of minds joined together, each unique, each essential. The defense network ships began to move in a complex pattern, weaving space back together where the Ravagers had torn it. Pattern complete, the Harbinger announced. Dimensional seal initiating. Reality twisted one final time, but this time under their control. The breaches collapsed, taking the remaining Ravager ships with them. In their wake, they left only stars and silence. Admiral Blackwood's weathered face showed fresh scars, but also hope. So what happens now? Emma smiled, touching the old brass compass in her pocket. Now we do what our ancestors did. We protect. We guide. We help other species develop without interference. But this time, we do it together. Through the neural interface, the Harbinger shared one final image. Thousands of dormant defense network ships scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting to be found by worthy crews. Not weapons to be hoarded, but tools to be shared among all branches of humanity. This was never about salvage, Emma said to her crew. It was about restoration, bringing the family back together. The gathered fleet began to disperse, but not to their separate territories. Instead, they formed new patterns, mixed groups of ships from different species, each headed to different sectors of space. They would search for more network vessels, protect developing civilizations, and stand guard against any future incursions from beyond. Mike disconnected from the neural interface, his eyes bright with purpose. So, Cap, still just a salvage crew. Emma looked at her team. No longer just crew, but pioneers of a new age. Oh, we're still salvage. We just salvage hope instead of spare parts. Above them, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the return of their ancient guardians. The salvage crew that had found a derelict ship had instead found humanity's true purpose. And this was only the beginning.